You can be in a full-blown relationship, partnership, marriage with somebody, and they will weaponize sex against you. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. I'm a licensed therapist. And one of the things that can happen with somebody, that you're in a partnership with is they can weaponize sex and intimacy against you. And you can be abused, assaulted even through sex with your partner, even if you're married, if you've been in a long-term relationship with them. And there's several ways in which, this could be done. So, you know, Number one, I think, a person can definitely, withhold sex from you, withhold sex from you, so they could say, you know what, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to communicate it. You turn me completely off. And I'm not talking about if something's happened, like your partner was cheated on you, and of course you don't trust that situation. I'm talking about like maybe as a part of like stonewalling, or as a way to try to gain the upper hand in the relationship, or as a way to be manipulative, or an attempt to it could be used as an attempt to emasculate, or have your partner sort of grovel for any sort of crumbs of affection from you. The longer I withhold, the more you're going to try to be all over me and beg me for it and do anything that I want you to do just to get basic intimacy. And so that brings me to point number two. Once they feel like they have power over you and you're sort of groveling and begging for it, then they'll give it to you, but it's going to be intentionally bad. And by intentionally bad, I mean, it could be rough, brutal, it could be impersonal, there's no aftercare. Aftercare would be like the cuddling and things like that. So there's no closeness. You're basically treating me as though I'm a stranger off the street in the bedroom. You're being rough. You're doing things that I don't like and that I don't consent to and that I'm not okay with, as a way to try to disrespect or degrade me in the bedroom. As part of the withholding, or trying to gain control, or even trying to get you to do things that you don't want to do, brings me to point number three, which is where they may try to triangulate you with somebody else. Well, if you don't give it to me, then I know somebody who would. My ex didn't put me through this, and I know he or she would take me back in a heartbeat. Or I can go out such and such a club, and people will be all on me. So you either give me what I want, or I'm going to bounce out. And you probably have seen my post about the dread game, where I talked about manipulation tactics such as these. And so it's meant to sort of hold you emotionally hostage, and use fear as a tactic. Fear that I'm going to withdraw or leave the relationship. And therefore, you give me sex right then and there. I think a really good example of what I'm talking about with point number three, you saw on the Housewives, specifically the Housewives of New Jersey. So I forget what season it's in. Somebody who's a Housewives fanatic or connoisseur of the Housewives, I should say, you let me know. But in the Housewives of New Jersey, there was an episode up there where everybody had gotten together, and I believe they were in Napa, if my memory serves me right, but they were in some sort of wine vineyard. And Teresa and her husband, Juicy Joe, they're there, and all of a sudden he gets a phone call. And he's like, "Oh, it's my job." And so he goes off into the wine field to take this phone call. And allegedly, it's some other woman that he's talking to. And he's talking about how his wife is this and that, and he's calling his wife the C word, and he's still mic'd up so everybody can hear him. So Teresa immediately gets up and goes over there and proceeds to like have sex with him right there in the vineyard. So that, and the idea being that, like, well, if I give it to him right then and there, he's not going to want to, you know, have a relationship with somebody else, or even entertain, the possibility of doing something with somebody else, because I'm his wife. I should be the one that gives him what he wants on the spot. And if I can give him what he wants, he's not going to look for it elsewhere. And so we'll come down to number 4, and people can do things that you don't want them to do to try to maintain the upper hand in the relationship. And this could happen around a number of things. So consent is always important, no matter how long you've been together. So an example of this would be stealthing. Stealthing is where, if the two of you have agreed that, while we're intimate, you're going to wear a condom, right? Stealthing would be where at some point during sex or intimacy, your partner decides to remove the condom without you knowing about it, and proceeds to have sex with you unprotected without you knowing or consenting to it. And also exposing you to potential consequences that you may not find out about. And so they use trickery and deceit to do what they want to do without you. And that it's very big in, stealthing is something that's very big, and it's definitely an abusive tactic. It definitely have criminal consequences as well. So you can file charges for that depending on where you're at, because it is looked at as a form of sexual assault. Other things would be, poking holes in condoms and things of that nature. Also, not disclosing sexual health status. So maybe this might even be a separate point. Maybe number 5, I guess. There has been, a trend of people who do not disclose their sexual health status. So people who are maybe who are HIV positive, but are taking HIV medications. So if you take HIV medications, if you get an HIV test, then you will show up as negative. This person is not being forthcoming on the fact that they're taking HIV medicines, and instead showing you a false test result indicating that they don't have HIV when they know good and well that there's other things on board that they're not disclosing. And so they could use that as a form of trickery and deceit as well. Other things that people do is just don't disclose, and will intentionally give you HIV. And another thing that has also been common is people who are doctoring or creating false my chart results. So they're doctoring up or having fake results printed up for you, so they're not being authentic about what they do have. And sometimes people can be sexually reckless too, because people can look at you and say, hey, this person is attractive, or they have a good job, so they must be clean. Therefore, I don't really need to test because they live in a nice apartment, or they dress well and they look good. And so therefore, I don't need to test. I feel okay having intimate relations with this person, not wearing protection, not getting tested for myself, and not having them test as well. So people can be a bit reckless in that way, but they can also be deceptive and withhold information as part of their way of having power over you in the bedroom. So anyway, this isn't meant to be comprehensive, this post, because I only have 10 minutes, but like, comment, and share, and give me a follow. And definitely subscribe to the newsletter. Let me know if you want me to do a part 2. There could be other things that I could certainly go into as well. Thanks so much. Hope this helps.